Are prices going to come down at any point this year? What is truly happening with mortgage interest rates? I'm going to be answering these questions and more in today's video. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Cara.fiano and I am a local realtor here in Asheville, North Carolina with Century 21 Mountain Lifestyles. Today is my March housing market update video. As always, I'm going to be breaking up this video into a few different sections, those being price, inventory, mortgages, local news, and other news. If you are not already subscribed and you want to know more about the local real estate market, but also some fun things to do around Asheville and what it's truly like to live here, definitely hit that subscribe button down below. I really appreciate all of your support on my most recent video, the 5 ideas for free things to do in the area. I'm already looking forward to filming part 2 of that later this year. Let's go ahead and start out today's video with price on a national level. Home construction costs rose by 4% in 2023. They're expected to increase by another 3 to 6% throughout this year. Some reasons for this include geopolitical turmoil, uncertainty around interest rates, continued inflation, and widespread labor shortages. I know that in 2020 and 2021, construction costs were increasing by quite a bit, and I know a lot of people were hoping that by this point they would start to decline a little bit, but unfortunately that's just not the case. I recently read the results of a survey that was conducted by Pulseonomics. The survey was called the Fannie Mae Home Price Expectations Survey. This polled over 100 housing experts in the industry. In the report, it was mentioned that home prices are likely to increase by 3.8% this year and another 3.4% next year. The survey did provide predictions as far out as 5 years. I will say that predictions that far out typically aren't going to be very helpful, though they are still kind of interesting to look at. Even predictions over 1 year or 2 years can be a little bit spotty. Generally, what I find is that if the experts are predicting home prices will increase by a certain amount, that particular amount might not come true, but the general direction of the prediction will be right. So overall, if you're seeing a lot of predictions say home prices will increase, they're likely going to increase. If you see predictions say home prices will decline, then they likely will decline. Of course, you have to have good sources for these predictions as well. I still think it's kind of interesting to look at these 5-year predictions though. So ultimately, the most pessimistic predictions showed price appreciation increasing by 8.1% over the next 5 years. The most optimistic predictions were thinking price appreciation could increase as much as 33.8% over the next 5 years. Of course, saying one prediction is pessimistic and one is optimistic has a lot to do with who you are. So this is really more from a seller's perspective. From a buyer's perspective, you know, they might not want to see as much price appreciation over the next few years. Unless they do buy a home this year, then it might be a good incentive to purchase a home now versus later. I read this morning that the median rent price across the country has now reached $1,981 per month in February. This is just a little bit shy of the all-time high that was reached, I want to say, back in 2022. Alright, let's talk now about price on a local level. The average sale price in the Asheville region has stayed pretty much flat year over year and is currently around $470,000. The median sale price year over year has also stayed pretty flat and is currently around $395,000. As I was just mentioning, home prices on a national level are likely going to increase this year, and it's the same story here around Asheville. I go into this a lot more in depth in a couple of my past videos, especially the one about home prices and what they might do this year. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll leave it linked up here. I highly recommend going and watching that one. Let's move on to inventory on a national level. New single-family home starts are projected to increase by 7.4% during 2024. If you're not familiar with that term, home starts, Ultimately, it just means new construction. So this stands in line with that first statistic I mentioned in today's video, stating that construction costs are likely going to increase this year. Of course, when you have increasing demand, a lot of times that can mean that prices are going to go up. I can't say this is all that surprising. Many of you that watch my channel know that inventory is incredibly low right now, and it has been that way for many, many months. It's making it very difficult for home buyers to find properties, particularly pre-existing, and that's what's kind of pushing them towards new construction. Let's talk now about inventory on a local level. Inventory is actually up year over year, but it would have been pretty hard to drop much lower than we already were last year. If you look at a month-over-month time frame, inventory has actually been declining a little bit since October of last year. This is somewhat to be expected, as the winter time tends to be slower for real estate. Not many people are buying or selling properties during that time with the holidays and colder weather, but now that spring is right around the corner, we might start to see inventory pick up a little bit. And if mortgage rates actually drop by any significant amount at any point this year, we might start to see inventory increase at that time as well. That leads me into my next topic, which is mortgage news. You may have seen the headlines around this, but the CPI is currently hovering right around 3%. The Fed really wants to see this down around 2%, and it's likely that they won't cut interest rates until we start to see that. At the moment, interest rates are hovering right around 7%. Towards the end of last year and beginning of this year, they did start to dip a little bit, and then they jumped back up again. The most recent prediction I heard is that interest rates might start to come down a little bit around May, but it could possibly be at some point this summer before we actually start to see that. According to the MBA, applications for purchase loans plummeted by a seasonally adjusted 10%. They are down roughly 13% from where they were a year ago. In February of this year, Fannie Mae slightly modified their predictions for interest rates to show a slower decline in interest rates this year. To be honest, this chart is pretty much identical to the one that I shared in January. By the end of this year, they're predicting that interest rates will drop to 5.9% versus the 5.8% they were previously stating. And by the end of 2025, they're predicting interest rates should be around 5.7% versus the 5.5% they were previously predicting. So very, very small adjustments here. And if I do hear of any future adjustments to these predictions, I'll certainly share them with you. The Pulseonomics survey that I was mentioning earlier also states that interest rates are likely to drop to around 6% at some point this year. This stands in line with what Fannie Mae and the MBA are predicting. All right, let's move on now to some local news. The only bit of local news I have to share with you is unfortunately not the best. In last month's housing market update video, I mentioned that Homeground, one of my all-time favorite breakfast places in West Asheville, closed, and that same week after I had filmed that video, I learned that Rise Above, which is another all-time favorite place, probably even more of a favorite than Homeground was, they just closed as well because they couldn't ultimately afford their rent. Their rent was increasing from what I understand. Rise Above was my favorite breakfast place in Fairview, and I would go there so much, and they closed without warning, so I'm super bummed that I couldn't go and enjoy like one last breakfast sandwich, but hoping that they can open up in a new location and I can still go and support them. Let's end out today's video with a little bit of other news. The number of home sales is expected to increase by around 5% this year and 10.9% next year. Even by the end of 2025, it's predicted that the number of existing home sales won't reach the levels that we saw in 2022 and will be far below the levels we saw in 2021. This is largely due to the lock-in effect and low inventory. The real estate market has been really unusual. To give you guys an idea, in 2022, I had my best year ever in terms of sales volume. And then last year in 2023, I did maybe like a third of what I did in 2022. It was definitely significantly less. And this year is a little bit mixed. January was a bit busier. February was pretty dead when interest rates spiked back up. And this month has been kind of mixed. So it's hard to say what it's actually going to look like. I'm thinking it'll probably be a bit better than last year, but nothing like 2022 or 2021, unless interest rates do drop significantly. If they drop below what Fannie Mae and the MBA are predicting, then I think we could start to see some chaos in the market with more buyers looking. But I do want to say, and this is something that I've said in past videos, if you think about it, if you're a buyer that's looking now, maybe you were looking to purchase a home back in 2021 and you didn't end up finding anything. I know some people back in the really competitive market a couple years ago just couldn't believe that people were paying the home prices that they were and just dealing with all those competitive offers, and they were just saying, you know, I can never buy in a time like this, you know, you're gonna lose your money basically. And now those people are thinking, man, those people that bought a couple of years ago are sitting on a good bit of equity. I kind of wish that I jumped in the game then. And so I think now we're in kind of an interesting situation where you have people that are eager to buy, they want to buy, but they're sitting and waiting for interest rates to drop. When really, I think that those people should really start looking now, and there are a few reasons. One is that home prices are not likely going to decline anytime soon. Secondly, it only takes one property for you to fall in love with it and end up wanting to purchase it. If you can find a property now when inventory is low and competition is also low, then you can end up saving money in the long run. Even though interest rates are higher right now and they are predicted to drop at some point in the future, you can always secure the property now and refinance down the road. I've gone into this many times before, but it's pretty much always a good time to buy now if you are looking to hold for the longer term. And mortgage rates right now, historically, truly aren't that bad. Before I sign out this video, I want to add that if you would like a copy of my free home buyer guide, I'll leave my contact info on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me anytime, and I am more than happy to send that over to you. I'm planning on creating a few more guides in the future, possibly a seller guide, investor guide, maybe a rebate and tax credit guide. If you didn't see that video, I'll link it up here too. It has a lot of really good info to save you thousands of dollars when you file your taxes, and if you are interested in submitting any rebates for certain home renovations. But might do a guide on that. If there's anything in particular you would love to see a guide on, leave me a comment down below and let me know, and I can maybe prioritize that one over some of the others. Also, if you are a homeowner around the Asheville region, I'd be more than happy to provide a free comparative market analysis for you so that you can get an idea of how much your property might sell for in today's market. Now that the spring home buying market is right around the corner, it's a perfect time to start planning and thinking about selling if it's something that's been on your mind. Well, if you are not already, definitely hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and keep your eyes out for some more fun Asheville videos coming out in the near future. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in the next one.